We're on episode 4 of ZOOMCAST. Welcome everybody. I'm Matt Grima, and today we've gone to the absolute top. We've gone to the very best in the business. I'm excited to have him. I'm surprised we've got him, to be honest, and it must be lockdown only. We've got Marcus Chiminello from Marshall White with us. G'day, Marcus.
G'day, Matty. How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Oh, no complaints. No complaints. I have to ask, mate, how are you handling the fame since this Zoomcast has been going viral globally?
I haven't had any fame. I tip that this might attract a few viewers and followers afterwards with your notoriety. But we appreciate having you on. Good on you.
Pleasure.
We're having a good back chat prior to hitting record on this little call. I thought we'd start by talking a little bit about your journey in the industry. This is going to be a very informal. This isn't Panos or Arek or MREC. This is as chilled out as you like, and you're on the couch in one of 5 or 6 living rooms that you've got in your house. So
the cleanest one at the moment.
I thought we'd start with your backstory in getting into the industry. Some people know the story. There's a lot of people that don't.
Yep.
But I thought we'd start there.
Oh, I think the only way into real estate is the unconventional way.
Yeah.
I think that's the way most of us have got into it. We've fallen into it. I think we got out of high school or growing up as a kid, walking around dressing up in a suit saying, when I grow up, I want to be a real estate agent. You sort of just, you end up there in some way, shape or form for good or bad reasons. Oh, look, I came from a building background. Yeah. I left school at a very young age, and it wasn't though I wasn't competent at school. I was actually pretty good at school. But I found the opportunity to do an apprenticeship. I was working concurrently. As soon as I could get a job, I got a job. The legal age of, I think back then it was 14 years and 9 months you had to be to get a job. So I went straight into the workforce straight away, got a job at Hungry Jack's, worked there part-time like most of my classmates did, and wanted more hours and more hours. I just wanted to work basically there every day because I loved money coming in. It was great.
Kitchen or front of house?
Oh, mate, you have to progress to front of house. So I started in the kitchen, just flipping burgers, fries, all that sort of stuff. And it was good. Systems and structures and everything you learn from those industries are, they're life lessons. And then I was actually helping a friend out he wanted to go up to get the unemployment benefit. He was unemployed. He'd left school. And I went up to, and I can't remember what it was, like Centrelink type setup. And they used to have a job board. And, up in these little placards with, someone to write a little note, stick it up. And I had a look, and I was like, building apprenticeship available, has to be hardworking, has to be fit, or sort of thing. I'm like, yep, I'll take that. And I'll call them. I said, come around and see us tomorrow. Anyway, so I turned up. The guy who was the builder forgot about it, and his wife interviewed me. And we had a chat. They lived in Hawthorne, all good. They rang me the next day and said, yep, you got the job. And I was like, shit, I haven't even left school yet. I was still at school. Better tell my parents. And I've got an ethnic father and an Australian mother.
Yes.
And Dad was like, oh, good, get an apprenticeship and do all this and go and work and earn and all that sort of stuff. My mum's like, no way. Not over my dead body, you're leaving school. You're the only one that's going to get a degree. You're going, well, you've just started VC. And I'm like, yeah, I think I'll listen to my dad. So I took the apprenticeship and I went there. So building was my sort of entry into the sort of the building sector, development sector, a lot of learnings from that. And I continued to work part-time. So I was still at Hungry Jack's doing that overnight on the weekends, and then worked full-time doing my building apprenticeship and playing football and all those sort of things. So I've always had sort of those formative, busy, and just, put a lot of hours into my day. And then I meandered through different industries between finishing my apprenticeship and different business opportunities. Till then, I got to a point when I was about 22, 23, I thought that I wanted to return back to schooling. Don't know why. And so I applied to go back to university, even though I didn't even finish or even literally start VCE, as a mature age student. And I got into Swinburne studying banking and finance.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so I did started that for the first year and thought, Jesus Christ, what have I got myself into? And I was just getting back in the routine. Like, university just got in the way of the gym and footy and earning money. And so then
your three favourite things.
Three favourite things. And then so I ultimately, my football club at the time, I had the opportunity of, because I can't remember, we'd get paid for playing. And then, so the ATO cracked down, and the president at the time said, look, I'm a financial planner. come and work for me on the books and all that sort of stuff. And, you know, you can still do your studies. I thought, great. Anyway, long story short, there was an opportunity. There wasn't really a job, but he had to try and create one for me. He said, why don't you try and sell some apartments off the plan down in Port Melbourne? And I'm like, yeah, why not? I know how to read a plan. I'll give it a try. So I did, and he had a team of 3 or 4 guys, and within 3 months, I was absolutely dominating. I was the go-to guy in the office to selling these off-the-plan apartments.
Were you selling the Mervac stuff in Port Melbourne?
Well, Rest Point, I think it was called.
Okay, yep.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly the detail, and I was braining it. I'm thinking, how good is this? But this guy was a financial planner, so he was selling things at loaded prices and all these sort of things. So I cotton on this thing was not going to last, purely because of integrity. And right. I applied for a job out of the paper, as you know, as you did back then,
yep.
to attend a careers night at Colin Sims Real Estate. So I went there. It was down in Kew. There was 200. At that point in time, I thought, I want to get into real estate. I love this. And I went down there. There was 200 people in attendance. We got the. I think we had a talk by Bruce Bell, who was obviously CEO of Colin Sims at the time, and James Tosterman. Both got up, talked about real estate, etc. I thought, I want to get into this. I'm as good as those guys. I can know what I can do. Anyway, so I went through the process of applying, job application, all that sort of stuff, and they whittled it down. It was almost like a tennis tournament. Yeah. You know, you go down to the round of 16, and then the 8, and the 4, then the 2, and it got down to the 2 of us, me and another guy, and the other guy got the job. So I got the disappointing call. I thought, oh well, there you go. I'll stick to my building. Then about a week later, I got the call saying he didn't turn up. He decided at the last minute on the day he was supposed to start that he was going to move to London with his girlfriend. Right. So I'm forever indebted to that guy. I don't know who he was, right. But I'm forever indebted. It was like the Stephen Bradbury of real estate. This guy went over, I came through, I got the job, and I vividly remember my first day at Colin Sims sitting there stuffing envelopes for the entire day for my then boss. So I was her PA, and thought, this is not as glamorous as I thought.
Yeah.
So that was my entry into real estate, mate. And then after sort of 18 months, I was there. I then ultimately worked for James Tosterman. And then 18 months later, James and I sort of parted with Colin Sims, joined Marshall White. And that was in April Fool's Day, actually, 2004. And been there ever since.
Unbelievable. Yeah, I flipped some burgers as well at McDonald's in Altona North, which is a safe neighbourhood, let me tell you. And then, as you said, progressed to working the checkout. So you've got to start flipping burgers first, and then get to the front. What was you talked about your ethnic dad and your Australian mum, and it's funny. I've got the same sort of setup. Dad was born in Malta, and mum was born here, but has got an Egyptian mum and dad. So it's a nice little mix. What were your mum and dad like when you were growing up? Were they strict? Were they hard on you?
I'd like to say they were, but I was a really defiant kid, and so as much as they tried, I either defiantly walked away from the situation or talked my way out of the situation, which is once again, it was a really good grounding for the industry that we're in at the moment.
Yeah.
So, but look, I had to grow up very early. This is not to put my parents down. They struggled through life, financially, emotionally, and a lot of things that they did. I was, which is quite a funny story, as a 9-year-old and a 10-year-old going out there. Our house had been basically repossessed by the bank. And my parents would sit and wait, and I was the one picking up the newspaper, ringing the real estate agents, asking, was this house available for us to come and inspect on a rental perspective? They would drive me up to the real estate agent. I'd walk in. These receptionists would be laughing and saying, are you for real? I'm like, yeah, here's our $50, because you have to give them $50, and they give you the key. And if it was a vacant tenancy, then you'd go and inspect it yourself. So you left the $50 as a bond, and they give you the key to the house.
And you're 9 years old?
I'm 9 years old.
Wow.
I'm 9 years old. And so I said, like, you look at, well, you think back then, that was normal to me. But then you look back in comparison to what perhaps your other friends went through and the stability they had in life. And once again, great life lessons. And you're always looking for the silver lining, whether it's currently in the current environment we're in or what you've been through in life.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. We, as I said, we're having a chat before we jumped on. Lockdown itself, what have you been up to both personally and professionally? How have you handled this particular time, which is obviously a weird one, a strange one for everybody in Melbourne and Victoria? How have things gone for you personally and professionally?
Good. If I can summarize it, good.
Yep.
It's been, look, I think it's been a forced sabbatical for many, many people, in particular, obviously in Victoria.
Yep.
And it's been an opportunity to stop and reassess and perhaps, work on things that you've always put to the side, whether it's personal time with your family, personal time with yourself, fitness, frame of mind, those sorts of things. So I just started the process with the mindset that I wanted to be better coming out the other side of the 6 weeks, not letting the 6 weeks be to my detriment. And that meant still having a level of structure to my day. And that meant I had to commit to certain activities every single day. And it's fitness, and that's my world revolves around looking after me first before anyone else, as selfish as it sounds, but it's the right thing to do, because then you give the best version of you to everyone else. And then, embarking on homeschooling. Like, homeschooling will be the cause of alcoholism in Victoria, because when you've got when you've got a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old that it's a novelty that dad's home, and you're trying to manage some homeschooling, you're trying to teach them fractions and one spelling, and then you're trying to do some work and all those sorts of things, and it's actually really taxing. I've enjoyed it. I couldn't do it long term without a shadow of a doubt. I'd take my hat off to the mothers that had to do homeschooling with multiple kids during stage 1 or the first lockdown, because it's really challenging. But once again, I've said, not worried about what we could do or so couldn't do. It's what we can do and do it really well. So it's been I've really enjoyed it. I'm sort of somewhat going, geez, we're only 2 weeks away before we're going to go back to that different frenetic busyness that we're used to. I'm actually really enjoying this. So once again, look, some people will take it in their stride. Some people will absolutely blossom out of this, and some people will go backwards.
Yeah. How have the kids reacted or responded to the fact that Dad's around perhaps a lot more than what he normally is? Have they been excited by it?
Oh, mate. Yeah, absolutely. Been very excited by it. Today I had WrestleMania with one of them in the cage trampoline. That was quite good. I've got a lot of bruises on my back from all those kidney punches.
Yep.
Then I had to fix up my son, so I gave my son a haircut because he cut all his fringe down the middle yesterday. So that was. I'm trying some different skills. Sitting there working on a digestive project for my daughter for one of her school projects. So they've enjoyed it, and I said it's a novelty. It's a novelty to be home all the time.
Well, our man, Matt Pilios, is on Instagram hourly, and he's got Duke and Stella doing more rounds with the boxing gloves and the mitts than what Sly Stallone did in Rocky. It was unbelievable.
It's quite good. It's a great discipline. It really is. And I think, for them, we've got the same sort of setup here, but I haven't socially posted it anywhere. And the kids love it. They absolutely love it.
Got it. Speaking of Stallone, he's here, by the way, and I've put him here for a reason. I tagged you in one of his posts yesterday, and it's the greatest like of all time for me. But Sly or
so far.
His PR team or a social media content creator have accidentally probably hit like to me commenting to you that Rocky IV is doing a director's cut. So that was exciting for us.
It was very exciting. I think it's because you included an Italian name in the like.
Might have been.
It was always going to get a like.
From one Italian stallion to the other.
Correct, mate.
Mate, anything that you've done or learnt during this lockdown period that you're likely to incorporate or take with you post-lockdown? I know that sounds like a sort of a long or a loaded question, and it's not. But I know for me personally, the connection or the reconnecting with people that, for whatever reason, busy or otherwise, you haven't got in contact with, it is nice to reach out to some people and say good day and check in on people. Are you finding that down your end?
Absolutely, mate. Agreed. And I think it's one thing that we're going to make sure that we don't just fall back into old habits really quickly. It's similar to that 6 weeks is a very similar time frame to what we normally take off over that Christmas New Year period. And you reconnect with people. You've got time to do this, you've got time to do that. And you go, I'm going to keep doing this once I go back to work. And you drop them off really quickly, like resolutions. And mate, there are many of those I've incorporated, but I genuinely think that what I do and the lessons I've learned, I haven't really changed much since pre-lockdown to today in terms of structures, disciplines every day that I do. Time with the family is probably the one that I go, I need to try and do that more often or get more involved in my kids' lives. How do I do that? And if that was one takeaway, because I'm loving it. And seeing them like that, not only for the first 2 weeks of lockdown, homeschooling was shithouse. Like we had no fucking idea what we're doing. But you know what? We didn't agonize by going, we have to try and do it. We struggled through it, but you know what? The kids were learning so much just by osmosis, by being around us. And I think we want just more of that. Just being connected with your kids and having, not just being with your kids, but actually being with your kids, not having your phone next to you while it's ringing, you're responding to someone's SMS. But you know what? Just sitting there and really connecting with them. And you can see what the enjoyment they're getting out of it too. So if it was anything, nothing too earth-shattering, but very important.
Yeah, really well said. Really well said. One of the things that I've seen a lot of stuff on social media that keeps popping up, people are sharing holiday snaps and, I was in Europe 3 years ago, or I was here 2 years ago or whatever, and they're reminiscing and probably taking a bit more out of that than what they would have at the time due to the fact that we can't physically move and travel at the moment.
Yeah.
You and I, Hawaii is a place that we both like. We've both been to a couple of times, and you're front end of the plane stretching out, and I'm sort of got my luggage on my lap down in economy. But we've got a couple of good stories to share.
We do.
Well, so we were at Kooyong Tennis Club for I reckon it was a fire up or some form of a yearly kickoff event with Marshall White.
Yep.
And I was sharing a story about my experience with you, which is batshit crazy. But before I get to me, talk me through yours. There's the kids, the mother-in-law, Hawaii. Go from there. What happened?
So our mother-in-law, or my mother-in-law, I should say, travels with us quite frequently. She's a good, she's actually a relatively expensive babysitter, but it's someone we trust. So it's good, particularly when you've got young kids. And I think back then there were probably 2 and 4 around that sort of age, or 3 and 5. So both mobile, and we're staying at the Trump International. Bad name, great hotel, and we're up on the 30th floor. We got home late one night because she goes to bed really early, so looks after the kids. And we'd been out to dinner with the Wheelers actually. Yeah, right. The Wheelers were there, staying there too. Good. So we'd been out, and we came back. We came back at that night, and I think there was a letter under the door from the hotel services, but Shelley's mum had picked it up from the front door, went and put it on the kitchen bench, and didn't read it. Anyway, and I won't disclose what was on there. We read it when we got back, and we probably had a few drinks under our belt and go, oh, yeah, that's pretty cool, and went to bed. And it wasn't late; it was probably about 11, 12. Anyway, we are awoken the next morning, blissfully asleep. Assuming my mother-in-law's got up and looked after the kids, and it's not late. It's probably 7:30, 7:45 in the morning, from this explosion, then this blood-curdling scream from my mother-in-law as she's standing on the balcony. Anyway, we went bolt upright out of bed, ran towards the living room because we didn't know where the sound was coming from. It's a huge hotel suite. Run in the living room. Then all we see is my mother-in-law cannot see the kids at this stage, looking over the edge of the balcony, screaming for her life and crying. And you would expect what our assumption was. And we ran out on that terrace, and you just felt like at the time you were going to continue. You're going to keep running just straight off that balcony, assuming that the kids had gone over or something horrific had happened. And I ran out there, and it's a big terrace. As I run out, I catch the corner of my eye, my 2 kids in the corner of the balcony, just there against the wall, looking at Nana, thinking, "What the hell is going on with Nana?" Anyhow, so she's just, my mother was shaking and crying, and she's like, they killed the people. And I'm like, what is going on? Anyway, there's this car on fire out in the street, and there are cameramen, there are crew, there are people everywhere, and the whole street's cordoned off. So what it was, Hawaii 5-0 were filming. And that note that she picked up from the door that stated, guys, there's going to be explosions, there's going to be this, there's going to be that, was all listed in front of her, but she just didn't elect to read it and just put it on the... She'd been out there all morning thinking that was this hostage situation out the front of the hotel. She thought it was amazing. Anyway, because they end up blowing up this car with, you know, people in it. And that's what she was inconsolable because she was, and oh mate, I think I went and popped a Valium straight after that because I thought, you know, that was it. Like my children were gone, or one of my children had gone over the side. It was the most horrific feeling of my life. So we saw the lighter side of it that night once we were, you know, probably 6 cocktails under.
Yeah.
But mate, that was a horrific experience. But look, at least mine was a happy one in the end. Yours was a little bit different.
You, when I told my story to you and you told your story back to me, it made me feel somewhat better. But incredible. So I'd been on a Bucks in Hong Kong, and it was a very low key, not much to see here type event. And I felt guilty that I'd been on this Bucks and Danielle had been left behind. So I decided to meet her in Hawaii, and I said I will go and have a week or 10 days in Hawaii. This is January 2018, and my sister had gone the year before with her husband, and they'd gone to I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Kualoa Ranch, which is where Jurassic Park's filmed, and Kong, and some of these big movies, and you know, incredible scenery and what have you. So they'd bought us a ticket to go to this ranch for a daily tour. So we were quite excited about that. We jump on a minibus at about 7 a.m. where they're doing the hotel pickup, and we quickly realised that the vast majority of passengers on this bus are Japanese tourists. So we've got myself, Danielle, a couple of other people, and as I said, 80% of people are Japanese tourists on this bus, and we're heading to Kualoa Ranch from Waikiki, which is about anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour to get there. We've got a young American tour guide for us, and then there's a Japanese tour guide for the others as well. And we're about 40 minutes into this trip, and I can start to see some angst surrounding the two tour guides and the bus driver. And I was sort of 7 a.m. We've been picked up and we've had a few drinks the night before. So I'm sort of out of it, hazy. I'm certainly not checking my phone. I'm only checking my phone if I'm connected to Wi-Fi. If I don't have a Wi-Fi spot near me, I've put the phone in the bag and I'm just, you know, detaching from the craziness that is our world. So we start to approach the ranch. So we're about 45, 50 minutes into the trip. And I can see the commotion between the Japanese tour guide and the American tour guide and the bus driver. They seem quite nervous. And on the radio that was playing just in the speakers on the bus, you could sort of hear snippets of, you know, intent, or there was a little bit of drama going on, but you didn't really know that it was anything associated. So we're pulling into the ranch now, and we pulled to the very front of the ranch in this big coach bus. And we're supposed to get off at the front of the ranch, obviously, to go and enjoy our day. And the ranch owner, or the person involved with the ranch, directs the bus driver to keep moving quickly and keep heading off track, if you like. And I'm thinking, where the hell are we going? And this bus takes off like you wouldn't believe. We're driving through branches and off-road, and it's movie style. And I'm looking at Danielle going, I reckon there's a gunman on the loose, or something like a terrorist attack or something at the ranch. Like, it looked that scary. That's what I was thinking.
Or you bought the express tickets.
That's yeah. But thank you to my sister, who absolutely hooked us up, but not on this day. So we drive off. We're off road. We are not. This is not conventional stuff. We are hitting branches and trees, and we're slicing through. And I think, what the fuck is going on? So we eventually pull up, and we are instructed by Japanese tour guide and American tour guide to get off the bus and do it quickly. And I'm thinking, what is going on? So we grab our bags, we get off the bus. I look at the American tour guide and I say, mate, what's going on? He says, yo, man, just keep moving. It's a bad day. I'm like, all right. Step off the bus. I've got the bus driver there. I said, mate, what's happening? Just go, man. Just go. Keep moving. Keep moving. I'm like, what is happening? We are eventually taken into, and I shit you not, a World War II bunker. So these bunkers still exist at this ranch. They were genuinely used during the Second World War. They're still there to this day. And we are put into this bunker. Me, Danielle, and about 35 other people off this bus, and several others that have rocked up this day. we still do not know what is happening. We've got no idea.
Is that the bunker system where they've actually got some props in there from movies all set up?
Well done. It's exactly right. So it's
I know you're right.
part of the
built
tour.
into the mountain. Yep.
Yeah, it's in the side of the mountain. It's part of the tour. So there's Kong and Jurassic Park and Jurassic World and all this memorabilia. So it's, when I say bunker, it's not, we're not under, but we're in.
Yep.
So we go in and we all get shoved in like cattle. And I'm looking around and there is genuine panic going on, like nothing I've ever seen before. Workers from the ranch are carting in water, like slabs of water, food supplies. I'm borderline starting to freak out. So I start to see some people with some badges, ranch badges on, and I say to them, Chima, I turned to one of the girls and I said, hey, what's going on? And this girl looks me dead in the eye and she says, a ballistic missile from a ballistic missile from North Korea is on the way and we've got 10 minutes to live.
Oh, shit.
And I said, when you say ballistic, what are you talking about? And I turned to Danielle. Danielle starts bawling, and so the girl who tells us this message with the ranch badge on, then I swear to God, goes and walks into the corner of the room, crouches down, and starts bawling her eyes out like no one I've ever seen, uncontrollably. 10 minutes to live is what they're saying. So, and I said, I thought there were some peace talks going on at the time. And this girl says, I think Trump's well and truly pissed them off. And, we're in some strife, basically. Right.
You've got 10 minutes to live and you're talking politics.
I don't know what I'm talking. I don't know what I'm thinking. My first thought obviously was to give Danielle a hug and say we'll be all right. If we're ever going to be anywhere, the best place we could possibly be is a bunker.
Yep.
So I'm just trying to rationalise. We lose listings a lot, so maybe the you were able to bounce back from a loss really quick. I don't know, but I was fearing for my life. She was clearly fearing for her life. So a couple of minutes go past, and they obviously feel like an eternity. And then we start to hear some whispers around the back of the bunker that there might be some good news coming. That it might have been a hoax, or it might have been a mistake. And I'm borderline claustrophobic. So I hear this announcement that says, you can stay in the bunker if you want, or you can start to come out. We believe it to be a hoax. I'm getting out of there. So I start to move. And I've got Danielle by the hand. I'm dragging her with me. And we get to the top. And I'm waiting to hear that it's a hoax, but I don't want it to be, Johnny Smith 7 at Hotmail. I want CNN. I want the real stuff to tell me this is fake. This ain't real. And then quickly word spread that somebody had pushed the wrong button from a text message perspective, and the entire Hawaii had been sent a message suggesting that a ballistic missile was on the way. So
that is
pretty
a horrific experience. And mate, I know your version of events might be far different from the reality of you being down on your hands and knees in tears, but it sounded like you handled it exceptionally well.
There's a part of me, Chimmer, that can't believe how well I handled it. And I think it was just pure disbelief. Like, we'll be okay, or it won't hit us, or, we're in a bunker, or I don't know. But an unbelievable story. And I know you and I had a bit of fun swapping stories afterwards. But
we did. And we can't wait to get back there.
Well, so after the event, we then go out and have the greatest day of all time. We're on four-wheelers. We're riding through the ranch. We're on a beautiful boat. We're getting served brunch, and you wouldn't have even known it had happened. But
you got a second chance of life that day.
Second chance of life, yeah, exactly right. What a few drinks that night, let me tell you. Tell me, are you a Scotch guy? Are you a cigar guy? Are you a book guy? Like, what do you do for yourself, apart from the gym? We know you're jacked. Yep. We get it. You're very fit. Is there anything you do? Shows, TV, podcasts, books?
Okay.
That you have?
Probably leading on to from the fitness basis. There's a few podcasts that I religiously listen to. I love Joe Rogan. I think he's really good because he goes off in different spectrums, and there's a raft of different people that he interviews. He's sort of like an older version of yourself, mate. So I see where the ZOOMCAST is going. Yeah. Spotify will come knocking.
We're on Spotify, and Joe got on there for the first time today.
Did he really?
Yeah, I actually got an alert before you and I started here saying that Rogan's now on Spotify. It's come with millions and millions of dollars, which is the only difference.
Yes, correct. That look, I do. Look, you don't have when you're running at speed. I'll put it that way. When you've got everything, when you've got family, when you've got fitness, when you've got work, and everything running at speed, which it normally does for the majority of the year, you don't have too many gaps in between. You know, and you got to forcefully take those gaps and have those times to recharge or just draw breath. As we've discussed previously, mate, there's a few shows that I love, like Ray Donovan as a television program or a series. Phenomenal. I wish the thing would never end. And I'm at the end now. It's unfortunate. And hopefully there is another season coming. I know you're not too far behind.
Well, you got me into it. So I walk in your office and I see Rocky on one frame, and I see a character I've never seen before, I didn't really recognize before, being Razor Ray Donovan on the other. And I said, who's this guy? And he said, oh, mate, it's an unbelievable TV show. You've got to watch it. I've never been more hooked on a TV series in my life than this. It's been phenomenal.
It does get you. Yeah. Look, mate, outside of that, I am a book guy. I actually do enjoy reading, and when the time prevails. But I'd still probably knock out, 8 to 10 books a year. And I'd love to do double, triple that. I'd love to be able to knock off a book a week. But I do. I think, once again, you feed mind, feed body, look after your body, look after your mind. And I think books are the greatest things. I'm not a big audio book person. I've tried audio books, but I drift off in my own thoughts. And you do when you read anyway. But I think there's nothing better than sitting there with a tangible, something you can touch and feel and read through and flick through, rather than something that's, it's time efficient, but it doesn't work. I don't think it actually sort of absorbs in, like a book does. But they're sort of my somewhat pastimes. I've shared with you recently that, fireballs, it does sound like I'm coming out of I'm living in a frat house, but I love a fireball, like fireball whiskey. Love it at the moment. But you know what? That'll change. I'm usually a red wine guy.
Got it.
But look, not in excess. I'm not there to drink, half a bottle of whiskey a night or a bottle of red or anything like that. It's just for pure enjoyment and pure relaxation.
Yeah. Well done. I was a tangible book guy, but because of lockdown and going on a walk or getting out for that hour, I've actually enjoyed putting the headphones in and listening to a few audiobooks or podcasts, whatever the case may be. I'll tell you one, I don't know if you've seen it or not, on Netflix at the moment. It's Kevin Hart's, Kevin Hart, the comedian, actor, unbelievable guy. 6-part series. It's called Don't Fuck This Up. And
I have. No,
have you seen that?
Yeah, I have.
I finished it today, blown away by it. Unbelievable.
That's when he comes to Australia.
Gets the gig to say he's going to host the Oscars, and then all of the stuff from a decade ago about some homophobic tweets and some things that he said that he was incredibly regretful of at the time, obviously, came to light. And
that's right.
As a result of that, he pulled out of hosting the Oscars, but it goes back to his beginning. He talks about his dad who was on drugs and his mum's strong stance on both that marriage and parenting him and his brother. And I loved it. If anybody's looking for something to watch, it's a little bit different, a little bit unique, but tells a really good story. Yeah, Kevin Hart's Don't Mess This Up is very good.
And I think it is another, it's not another sort of, cliched sort of rags to riches story, because, he had a really tough upbringing.
Yeah.
Look at the amount of comedians that get out there and become, phenomenally successful, let alone a little bit successful. They are few and far between. And he's one who absolutely broke through. And, he's a worldwide success. He's a household name. Doesn't matter where you go in the world.
Yeah.
But while we're talking podcasts, tell us a little bit about the new acquisition in your studio.
You don't mean Bell?
Your microphone. The microphone. Come on.
I've wanted you on this from the start, but I wasn't going to go the tinny AirPods. So we've just raised the The golden mic.
Yeah. That's quite impressive, mate. Quite impressive.
I'm negative about $120 on the podcast thus far. So
will you start using that in the office to make phone calls, like talking into that microphone,
sure.
just to put yourself in that, in that frame of mind?
I don't make phone calls. This is what I do. This is the
the true.
podcast.
This is the new chapter.
That's it. We can touch on real estate for a second. I've got two questions left for you, and I genuinely appreciate your time. I know you're a very, very busy guy, and you've got a family to get back to. From a real estate perspective, we're 2 weeks out of lockdown, basically, we think, until we get back to some form of normality, and that might mean back to a stage 3 type approach with private one-on-one inspections, properties to be back on realestate.com, domain, marshallwhite.com, marcuskiminello.com, etc. What are you predicting? And you're a guy that's in the know, and you've got a lot of intel that others may not be fortunate enough to get. What are you predicting for the end of 2020 from a real estate perspective? And do you have any advice for any agents, any buyers, or any sellers out in the marketplace?
I've got plenty. Whether they'll listen is another question. My view is that we haven't had an uninterrupted selling season since last spring, since spring 2019.
Yep.
So it has been this stop, start, getting used to restrictions, not getting used to restrictions. What's COVID effect going to do? How's it going to affect the economy? How's it going to affect us on a health perspective? It's been a year of unknowns, and it's going to finish, I think, still in that theme. It's going to be a year of unknowns. But for our areas that we operate in real estate, I expect that there is going to be this rubber band slingshot effect once we resume some level of normality or easing of restrictions, where we can actually meet people and we can transact real estate in the way we're supposed to, which is face to face. So look, I expect, I'm hoping and expecting, but preparing also that it may not happen, that we will be, come Sunday, there will be a roadmap that they'll say the following week on a real estate industry, you can go to stage 3 again. And we can start taking, people through one-on-one inspections, meeting with, families in their house, what we were doing, 8 weeks ago. When that occurs, I think that roadmap happens, next week will be, from Monday onwards, it will be an exceptionally busy week in pre-work, the preparation, locking things in for the following next couple of weeks. But what I say to people in terms of agents, don't necessarily rush to be the first, because I think the first aren't necessarily going to be the beneficiaries of it, because people, if there is a level of normality is a blanket approach across metropolitan Melbourne, we're just coming out of a 6-week lockdown. People are going to resume and try to get some rhythm or level of normality back in their lives first and foremost, perhaps before they work towards, hey, let's go buy a new house or let's sell a house.
Good point.
So I would say, look, get all your pre-work done, but don't necessarily have to launch. You might relaunch some campaigns, but relaunch them with maybe an extended conclusion rather than a shorter conclusion. Because I think that first week, you might think that everyone's going to come running back to real estate, where I think they're going to be very distracted. So they'll be getting their lives back to normal, getting back into some level of routine, all those sorts of things, trying to do things that they haven't been able to do for 6 weeks. Then that following week, which I think is the week commencing the 20th, I think things will start to, 21st, I should say, then things will start to unlock and people will start returning to normal. And I think we're going to have an exceptionally busy 10 to 12 week period, provided there aren't any other restrictions or restraints that do occur during that time, or, unforeseen circumstances. I think we're going to be really busy. I think if we looked at the start of 2020 and we said, this is the amount of buyers in the market and these are the amount of sellers in the market, I would have thought there was about 100 sellers to every 100 buyers. It felt really, really just equal and balanced.
Yep.
I would say coming out the other side of this at the moment, now, that 100 is probably, we've got 28 sellers, 30 buyers. And I think there's marginally more buyers in the market than there will be sellers for this last sprint for the balance of the year. So I think that the scales will tip just favorably for the seller on a transactional perspective, but not necessarily, there's not going to be an upward pressure on pricing. There will be the anomaly every now and then, go, geez, we didn't expect that price, only because there was that pent up demand. And it will be simple economics will come into play, supply and demand, which will see some results perhaps get a better result than expected. But I think most things that go to market that are sensibly priced will sell and transact in a reasonable time frame. What 2021 holds is like any other year when you're trying to predict the following year, there's a lot of time to pass. There's a lot of transactions to pass between now and then. Anything can happen.
Yeah.
Anything can happen.
Yeah. So I know that the caliber of real estate that you handle, and I'm not sugarcoating this, it is the best real estate in the best suburbs in Melbourne, and you're phenomenal at what you do, and you've done it for a long time. Have you been doing private one-on-one style buyer appointments for the majority of your career, for a portion of your career? Is that normal at your price point in terms of what you do?
Yeah, I think we'll probably, as a team and as people, myself, Nicole, Brooksy, we were prepared. Like, we've already been conditioned to it because that is the way we normally operate. And we'll have probably a 70-30 approach. 70% is privately and it's one-on-one. It's one thing I've always encouraged either myself to do or my team members to do in my whole journey of real estate. The power of a one-on-one inspection with a good buyer, not a time waster, with a qualified buyer, the amount of rapport you can build with that person, and also I think the reflection from your selling client goes, they're doing a lot in terms of extra legwork. They're not just doing open for inspections. So I've always been a big advocate of private inspections and encouraging and working to other people's timetables to an extent. So we were conditioned, we were prepared for it. So when this first occurred way back in March, April, we were ready for it. Like, this is what we did normally. So nothing really changed. And we had 2 thumping months, April, May, purely because we knew what to do. We didn't have to really change much. We had maybe changed a few of our ads and those sorts of things, but nothing else changed. So it was business as usual for us. So we didn't have that clunkiness. So it is, and moving forward, it's exactly the same. Like, we don't hold a raft of open for inspections on the weekend. We'll hold quite a few, but most of our selling it gets done Monday to Friday. Yeah.
And moving out of this period, I think much the same. You'll be holding one-on-one private buyer appointments where you can build a certain level of rapport or give some better intel or service or information, if you like, to buyers that you work with in the market.
Correct.
Yeah.
Oh, look, we work, and I've always done this. I work in the now more than I work in than the past or the future.
Yeah.
With people that are transacting immediately, because if you're in that realm of people, that there's going to be a lot of business there. It's like throwing your line in a pond that's full of fish, or putting in these other ones that aren't as many fish, but eventually they'll bite. That's why I do operate more in the now than I do with past purchases or having a pipeline of sellers. I've got that, but the now is the most important.
Yeah, got it. Well done. I had it's going to sound very funny. So there's a viewer question that's come in. So I didn't tell many people that you were coming on because we like the element of surprise with this little ZOOMCAST. But there's a good friend of mine who's an agent in the Western Suburbs. His name's Sean Gretsch, and he works for LJ Hooker out in Point Cook. And Sean asked me to ask you if there was one moment in your career, one sale, one client, one opportunity that you feel most propelled you and your career as to what it is today. And I appreciate that I'm putting you on the spot, but is there a moment in time or a specific deal that happened that sort of started the climb?
Sean, that moment, and it certainly wasn't when I was framing houses when Point Cook was first being established. And I remember being, mate, I used to drive there every day, and I did a lot of house. Oh yeah, I did Point Cook, I did Sunbury, I did a heap of work in St Albans, Epping, Thomastown, Laylaw, all through the golden suburbs of metropolitan Melbourne. But I do remember having to insulate inside a ceiling of a house of a new home that the builder forgot in Point Cook. I was doing some contract work out there, and that was on a warm day. Tell you what, yeah, you appreciate working in an office and and going around and showing nice houses rather than doing that. But Sean, the defining moment for me was, without a shadow of a doubt, was one particular listing and then sale that then had a knock-on effect for a very prominent Melbourne family that sold for just shy of $20 million. I walked into that listing opportunity. They called me because I'd sold for their parents an apartment That's the thing. You've always got to remember, any opportunity can create a better opportunity. So a little door can open a big door. And it was an unsuccessful campaign with another agent that had on the market near on a year. And I came in, and I was still up against the big boys. I put it in the marketplace. So I was the long shot, and I went in there, and I was sweating bullets. Like, I felt like I didn't belong, but going in there. But I thought, I'm not going to get many opportunities to, you don't actually get many opportunities to present your credentials. And once I got that opportunity, and I went in, and we talked about going in together, going in teams, doing this, I went in solo.
Right.
I went in solo, and I came out on top. I got the opportunity, took it to market, sold it within 3 weeks. We sold just shy of $20 million. It made the papers. That made me at that point in time, because I will always, and I still do today, I will capitalize on every opportunity I get. And then that followed on to another family member's house that was just over 24 that set a Melbourne metropolitan record. Then people started to say, hang on a minute, these other agencies are putting these big homes on the market, sitting there for a year and not doing anything. This guy has had the one that's been on the year that sold in, basically sold in 21 days. The other one that we put on the market, we had on the market for 17 days and sold it for a Victorian metropolitan record. Then other doors opened. They're like, okay, we better speak to this guy. And it sort of got to that point, like, we have to find out what this guy's doing, at least speak to him. Once I got in the door, look out, I was not going to lose the listing. And it's been that way ever since. And that's why now I've built a brand to be, recognized when you've got a great piece of real estate in my core areas, putting aside a lifelong friendship that may preclude you from actually getting the business. I'm always on the shopping list.
Yeah.
So, and it just came back to a pivot point when we talk about sliding doors. I had that opportunity. I took it. I then fulfilled what I needed to do, and then ran on the coattails of that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good story, Marcus. A lot of people suggest that believe it or not, it's easier to get to the top than it is to stay at the top. And there are a lot of agents in Melbourne. Some of them work with us, some of them work against us, that are bloody hungry. They want to get there quickly. They look at the Chiminellos and the Tostevens of the world and say, you know what, that's the mantle I'm shooting for. Is that part of your current motivation? Is that what keeps you driven and determined to do what you do day in, day out?
My competition?
Yeah, your level of competition and pride in what you do. Obviously, you've got, your wife and your 2 lovely kids that inspire you, but does that play on the mind at all?
It does. It really does. And there's some great agents out in our marketplace. And there is always several people waiting to take your place, not just one person. It's like holding, you and I, big fight fans, it's like having the title. You've got the belt, okay? How many people want a shot of the belt? And so they are, like, you are always scrutinized based on your outcomes by those that want your position. So it does play in your mind, and every now and then it gets to you, but then you've got to then put back into, all right, the frame of mind, I've got to put the blinkers back on. If I just do what I know, what I need to do, and execute it well and not become complacent, I've got nothing to worry about. They can talk, they can tell stories, they can do whatever they'd like, but provided I'm staying honest with myself, maintaining integrity with my clients, and just, and outworking those, I've got nothing to worry about. So I think that you got to alleviate those fears in your own mind. Otherwise, you know what, you'll be looking behind your shoulder all the time, thinking, Jesus Christ, someone's going to either try and knock me off in this listing, or they'll be peppering this vendor when I've got them on the market. Yeah, all that happens. Like, we are getting bullets put in us every single day, but they're not killing us.
Yeah. I'll leave you with one last one. If you had one piece of advice to give to newer agents, younger agents, more inexperienced agents that are getting into the industry during a very tough time economically at the moment with COVID and the surrounds, what piece of advice would you give that group of people that are just getting involved?
Don't believe what you see on social media, number one. Yep. Because I think that has created a really distorted view on agents in the past few years. They see, the tip of the iceberg. They see the orchestrated, I'm this successful in real estate, and it's all bullshit. Yep. So I would say, And don't let it get to you. And that's the problem. People look at that idealistic lifestyle of a real estate agent and go, oh, I'm a failure. I can't get there. You know what? Just unsubscribe. Stop following these people that actually make you feel bad. You know what I mean? Because it's bullshit. They're doing it because they've got exceptionally low self-esteem. Look after yourself. Look after yourself first and foremost, and just be true to yourself. Like, work your ass off. And that is the only thing that you can really do is be able, before you can choose what you want to be as a real estate agent, you've got to commit. Like, you've really got some input into it. And everyone goes, oh, you know, you do this and you do that. I said, but you know what? In next year, I think I'm going to be in it for 20 years. You know, and it's a long time, you know, and that first 10 years was a really hard slog. And, you know, we've got I think we've got a really poor retention rate when it comes to, you know, real estate, not as an agency, but as an industry, that people will get out of real estate after, you know, 2 or 3 or 4 years. So it's still too hard, and expect it's all going to come back to you. So remain, I think, disciplined and committed. They're the two things. If you're disciplined to what you do and commit to actually doing those disciplines over a long period of time, you will reap the benefits. But you can't expect this instant gratification of doing something today, getting a result tomorrow. It has to be over a sustained period of time. And if you do that, if you go, you know, and it's not bloody rocket science. You just said, like, all I need to do is build my database to 800 people or 1,000 people, service them really well, get to know them really well, become an expert in my marketplace, not the generalist that shoots all around Melbourne, but the expert in my marketplace. At some point in time, that will turn and business will start coming back to you. Like, you won't need to be chasing business. You've built a brand, you've built a reputation, you've built, you know, an awareness in the market, and people to start coming to you. So it is a long game. It is a long game, but stay really committed, stay really disciplined to what you should be doing. And I think we know in our heart of hearts what we should or shouldn't be doing on a daily basis when we get up out of bed, when we go to the office, and what we're doing. And just ask yourself that question all the time. Am I actually doing what I should be doing, or am I just doing what I want to do? And then that will, if you just can do what you should be doing consistently over a long period of time, success is undeniable.
Yeah, well done. Well done. Mark, it's been an absolute pleasure. It really has. And we've gone probably well over time for what we might have anticipated. But I think anybody who takes the time out to listen to this or watch this, I think is going to get a great deal of information out of it. Where can people find you if they want to sell a piece of real estate, buy a piece of real estate, or just perhaps sit down for a coffee when lockdown lifts and pick your brain a little bit? Where's the best place to find you?
Mate, always via the phone on the mobile. Or just, you know, Google a name, get on Marshall White's website, give me a call, connect with me, email, SMS, whatever's easiest, or go through, which will be certainly my manager one day, you, Grima. You can field the inquiries, and we'll take it from there.
It'd be an honour. Well done. Thanks for popping on and giving us some of your time. I appreciate it.
Pleasure, Matt.
Thanks, Marcus.